Marking 70 years since the defeat of the Third Reich. While the horrors of the Nazi regime are gone, some of the scars it left behind still run deep. RT's Polis UK recently came across a box of letters that revealed her own family's grim wartime past.
Pa and Ma, I have a sense that something is going to happen soon. Thousands and thousands are dying, but we have to keep our courage up. Flip.
These are words written by Flip Sleer on the 13th of July, 1942. Soon, he will be murdered. I am Polis Sleer. He's my first cousin, once removed. I have returned to the city of his birth, Amsterdam, to tell the story of his death.
So, 70 years ago, this is where my family lived. From what I understand, it was from this house that Flip's parents were taken. They died in the camps eventually.
Well, Paula told Ewan O'Neill more personal details about the emotional journey she undertook in order to uncover the truth.
Well, there was a building in Vrolijkstraat, Amsterdam, that was being demolished, and Flip's parents lived in an apartment in the building. And when the builders knocked down the roof of the bathroom, a box of letters came tumbling down, some 86 letters that had been written by my 18-year-old relative over a period of 6 months from a labour camp called Molengoed. And of course that then prompted not only to find out what happened to him, but what had happened to the rest of my family who came from Amsterdam.
It really must have been an emotional experience to hold the original letters, to read them that your relations had read. In fact, let's take a look at that moment now.
I can't believe it.
Lieve pa en ma, veel weet ik op dit moment niet te schrijven. Of hij
What is a human being?
kaart,
What is life worth nowadays? Nothing. And yet we will not lose it. And that's why we have to keep strong and have to trust. We once will be set free. Of this I am sure.
Hartelijke groet en een stevige zoen van Flip.
I started off trying to find out what happened to Flip Sleer, and during the course of my research I found out that 119 members of my family had been killed. Most of them were gassed in Auschwitz and Sobibor, and I'm talking about all my grandfather's brothers and sisters, my great aunts, my great uncles, my cousins, my great grandmother.
You also did something else. You spent a night in Auschwitz itself. Just tell us about how evocative that was for you.
It was extremely evocative. Auschwitz is hell on earth, and when you go to hell at night and you have the watchtowers and the barbed wire casting their shadows and almost following you around everywhere, it's almost terrifying, if you like. And here is a clip, but just to warn our viewers that some of these scenes are quite distressing.
I look at the beds, and then I try to imagine over the years that this place functioned as a barrack in the concentration camp. How many people came through here?
Lieve pa en ma, veel
Dear father and
weet ik
mother,
op dit moment niet te schrijven.
we had to get up at 5:30 in the morning. At 5:45, we have to stand in line for food.
Of het doorgaat, weet ik niet.
Around 6:30, we have to be at the workplace.
Moet er opgenomen
At 7 o'clock, we have to start.
Het is 27.
There's a freezing cold wind blowing so early in the morning. This cold chills you to the bone.
Gestorven
I am strong and healthy.
is een dochter
Flip.
van Flip.
I met Rainer Huss. He is the grandson of Rudolf Huss, who was the commandant of Auschwitz, where some 1 million Jews were killed. And so essentially I was meeting the grandson of the man who was responsible for killing my family, and I felt conflicted about meeting him, but he has separated himself from his family. They've disowned him, and he's using the Huss name to spread a message in the world that Auschwitz must not happen again, and of course it's a message I appreciate. I asked him whether or not he thought the Holocaust could happen again, and he said yes. And for me, parallel to finding out my family's story, The real importance of the documentary was these attempts that we're witnessing today, 70 years after the end of the war, for people to rewrite history. And only by finding out what happened to our families, only by recording the testimonies of people who were there, can we, with facts, stop this revision of history. And that is why this documentary was so important to me.
And you can watch Paula's special report, 119 Lives Unlived, on RT International this Wednesday. We've got more news coming up after a short break.